Hey guys, it's Joe here with the Practical Prepper Podcast, and today is a special edition. We're going to talk here and celebrating our veterans, and this week was Veterans Day, and we want to talk through with a couple of our veteran moms. We've got two ladies with us here today that combined have had four sons sent off in the Marines and in the Army to Iraq and to Afghanistan. And a lot of Veterans Days, we do talk about the great sacrifices that our veterans have made to help bring freedom to the world. And this is one where we're going to take a little different spin on it, and we're going to talk to some moms about what is it like to know that your son is going. What is it like to understand how to bring him back? What are the things that happen while they're gone, and how do you deal with some of that? And most importantly, just bringing some awareness to some of the continued issues that are going on today with our vets, and how we help and how we celebrate them. So tune in here and get a little bit about Veterans Day from a new perspective as we think about it through the voice of a mom. The conversation today is all about veterans, and the conversation is it's Veterans Day coming up, and this podcast will be released on or around that, but Veterans Day has been around for a long time. At the end of World War I, on Armistice Day, on the 11th minute of the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month, everybody stopped shooting at each other, and that's great. And that ended World War I, or the Great War, or the War to End All Wars, which we'll talk a little bit about is not the war to end all wars, but definitely a moment where we started to respect the value that veterans provide to not just here, but to the world in their service. And fortunately to the world, and or unfortunately, depending on how you view it, it is an amazing service that we provide to the entire world, and most of the time, very luckily, since the 1800s, not here. They keep us safe. They keep the war away from here. That's a little bit what we're talking about. And today, a different view on it is talking about what's like to be a mom, a family member, right? The soldiers to whom we celebrate are out there fighting the fight, but that's not the only person who's involved in being a military individual. And so that's what today's about. And I'm here with two great moms, two military moms, who have had their sons deployed overseas in two different fronts, in the Marines and in the Army. And we're going to talk a little bit about when your son says, "Hey, I think I'm going to join the military." What's that first? How does that hit you? What's that first feeling? If you think way back at, I think this is what I'm going to do. Or was it one of those things where, like, guess what I did? How did that land for you?
Well, for my first one that went over, who joined, it was right after 9/11. So I was very proud of him that he wanted to do that. We're a very conservative family and patriotic, lots of military in our family, and so I was proud that he wanted to do that.
So for me, I always knew he would be a soldier. I don't know why. When he was born, that's when I did cry. And I knew that he would be in a war. And when he turned, as soon as he turned 18, was just before 9/11, 2 days. And as soon as I saw those buildings get hit, I knew. And he came home. And I looked at him, and it's like, oh yeah, here we go. And I already knew. I mean, it's not like that for everybody. I know that. But you're right. 9/11 was the start of it for a lot of his friends and a lot of the young men that age.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, we had no idea that we were going to be in a 20-year engagement at that point in time. And we had just kind of rolled out of the Gulf War, which we saw a lot of the people whom, when I was a kid, a lot of the adults whom we knew were coming back from that, right? So you had a lot of influence of people who had just returned from a war, and that was a war that was very different than many of the other wars that we've seen in the past. And this war especially, when we think about the most current Iraqi war and Afghanistan, it was two very different wars, but a very different way to go through it. So from your perspective, obviously basic training, pride are words that I'm hearing. And then at what moment did it settle in of like, yeah, this could be dangerous?
Well, for me, he was in the reserves. Actually, I have two that are Army reserves. Both were combat medics. One of them was combat medic LPN. So it didn't happen right away after he joined. I don't know. What about for you?
Well, he joined. He did a 1-year deferment because of his friend who had passed away, and he wanted to honor his friend and go to Muscular Dystrophy camp for one more time before he went in. So he had delayed entry. But when he went, I know that as soon as he got back, finished combat, what do you want to call it? Basic training. Mm-hmm. He knew where he was going. We knew right away he was going to be deployed because he was given desert gear. So it was like, guess where we're going? We didn't know where in Iraq, but we knew he was going.
And was he in ordnance disposal at that time, or?
I knew he was a combat engineer. I had no idea what he was going to be doing over there. And he really didn't tell us much until he got back because he didn't want to worry us.
Right.
So, I mean...
Yeah, mine was the same. None of them want to talk about it until years later, and then you find out these bits and pieces.
Bad luck. Just let's hold it back. I'll tell you all about it when I get back, right?
Yeah. I mean, we knew it was...
But even when they got back, they didn't talk about it for a while.
No, they didn't. But even, like I said, when he was first deployed, like I told you, Donna, he was, we had that was when AOL IM was. That's how old. Yeah. And that was just, it was up on my computer 24/7, and he just gave me the relief when he would be on base. You didn't sleep much. He would just get up, you'd see, oh, he's on, and he would just say, Mom, I'm on the base doing laundry, and then you would just sit there, you'd start typing, and you would wait for him to respond. Because you never knew what time of day it was going to be.
And for John Michael, it was his first tour was in Iraq, right? So
correct.
that was pretty early. We look back at how long the fight's been going on. I mean, that was pretty early on.
Yeah, he was in Enduring Freedom, and he was in the Sunni Triangle, which we did not know. He never told me where he was, and I did not know until he came back because he didn't want to tell me that he was in one of the most dangerous areas, and. So in that respect, he was trying to protect us, but it was still hard.
Yeah. That's the piece that I think isn't, as I've talked with my brothers who've been deployed. I've talked with a lot of soldiers who have been deployed, and when you're in the fight, your headspace is in the fight. You assume everything back home is okay, and my attention is here. When you're back home, you don't have that. I'll say distraction in a loose term here, but you don't have that focus of attention on anything other than when am I going to talk to my loved one again, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a part of it that is, I think, it's amazingly difficult, I project, to be in the situation of being in a war zone and having to constantly deal with mentally that stress level of everything that's going on. But there's a piece that I don't think that we draw a lot of attention to, in that what the family is going through during that time, right? All the husbands, the wives, the mothers. And I think that's a little piece about what we wanted to talk a little bit about today, is just kind of like, what are the things that you do while they're deployed that help you connect? AOL, right?
At that time, that was the only thing available, and you would just wait till he was there. Yeah. And But like I said, as soon as he got on base, he always IM'd me to let me know he was on the base, whether or not I could talk to him. A lot of times he didn't even want to talk. He just let me know he was there, and when he would say he's on the base, I'd say, how long? And I'm like, okay, I can go sleep.
Yeah, and we prior to coming on here, we were saying that piece of rest you only get, you were saying, just kind of in those moments where he's at the laundry room, right? He's good at the laundry room, right?
He's doing his laundry and getting his stuff ready to go back out again, and then you would ask the general questions, what do you need? And it didn't matter because sometimes he didn't have time to go, get razors and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff we would send in care packages so that he did not have to worry himself when he was on the base, getting toothpaste, getting razors, getting candy bars or whatever. So.
And from the soldiers that I have talked to, the sailors that I've talked to, those care packages carry a lot of value. They are more than home. They are little reminders that people remember.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they look forward to them. For me, I became involved in family readiness.
You did that.
They call it SFRG now, which is a soldier family readiness.
What is? Tell me more about what that is for anybody who doesn't know what that is.
Family readiness is a group through the military. You have to get everything approved by your commander and everything, but you make sure that. Let me just say the motto is soldier readiness plus family readiness equals mission readiness, which is what you were talking about. If you're taking care of their family, the military is taking care of the soldier, the mission can be accomplished then as best as it can be without them having to worry about anyone on the state side. So it was my responsibility when they got deployed to make sure that I took care of the families, and I had to start a telephone tree where I would ask other family members who had deployed soldiers to make calls once a month to check on the families, help them with it if there were any problems, if there were financial issues or anything like that, set them up with organizations that I would get information about. And I had monthly meetings with them and anyone else. A reserve unit is different because you don't have a base.
Correct.
Which we were talking about before, Claudia and I. And so there's no MWR, which is morale, welfare, recreation. So I did all of that for the reservists that were still there and then those that got deployed. A lot of times for reserves, they're part of a regular Army attachment. So, and this was a medical unit.
But even for like here in Ohio, like John Michael was out of Kansas. So there's no bases here. So for the families who have soldiers that don't have a state with a base, you don't have the support as other units have.
Right.
So, I mean, I was basically here by myself. You were here. I called you.
Yes, we buddied up.
Yeah, we did. Because
that helped a lot.
It does.
To talk to somebody else who was going through the same thing.
Hey, today's podcast is brought to you by Valley Food Storage. Valley Food Storage is a great way to make your long-term food storage plans come to life. It's a great and clean way to get nutrition built in for those emergencies as we look through things like hurricane season, fire season, the unprecedented ways that we see all of the supply chain today and everything that has to deal with what we've experienced in the last few months with the pandemic. Altogether, there's a lot of great reasons to think about where your food comes from and what happens when it's not as available as just running to the store. And Valley Food Storage is a great solution for all of that. Take a look at valleyfoodstorage.com. They've got some great kits on there. I've got a couple at my house that I really enjoy. The Family Readiness Kit's a great one. The meat, if you can grab that, scoop that up, it's delicious. I would enjoy a lot of the things that are on there. I've tasted pretty much everything, and I love it. I feed it to my family and my kids. Take a look at valleyfoodstorage.com and find the food solution that's just right for you. Remember, valleyfoodstorage.com, store the kind of food that you love to eat. Now let's get back to the podcast. And with the family readiness groups and pieces like that, what advice do you give to other moms, wives of folks who are going through that mindset of you have a son right now who's deployed, right? So
Right.
like what advice do you give when someone's coming up on that deployment to say, hey, here's the thing. You're saying, I heard you say it was not being alone is a good thing, right?
It's not as having people, that you can depend on, who will be there for you just to talk to you and give you this, just emotional support.
Sure.
I mean, I was always calling his sisters to check on them to see how they were doing because both of them were at college at the time. And college campuses are very liberal, so they could not get any support there, for how they were feeling. And that was the one thing I will say John Michael did for us. On his first deployment, he bought us all cell phones so that we could communicate with each other, because he did understand that we needed to be in communication with each other, to talk to each other when he was gone. So, yeah, that was a nice thing he did.
Yeah, I think for my Marine, again, no base, and they did everything through, the Marines have an actual, like a Facebook forum, but it's not Facebook. And so you would go on there, like she was saying, 24/7. I was like eyeing that, and they would tell you everything that's going on with them. The soldiers couldn't talk on it, but we knew what was going on. She got all the information from the commander, and the commander would give her information to come take out to us. And I was able to get the USO to send their group little Christmas trees. They had little chapstick and stuff like that for the ornaments. It was really cute. So because I had a post office number to go to an APO, they were able to send it to the whole group. And the same with my other two. USO is really great when they're deployed. If you can tap into those organizations, you can get a lot of things for your soldiers. And I asked schools to donate. My own company had a box to donate stuff. And then I think the main thing is to get involved. If you're on the base, get involved with your FRG. If you're off the base, participate in the monthly meetings that someone is, doing for you. I did all kinds of stuff, whether it's for the kids or for the parents. I still stay in contact with these families. We bonded. So I am still very active in their lives and have known some of those children since they were babies and born while their soldier was away or after they came back, and now they're in high school. Yeah. So I think it just will help you to stay in contact with what's going on, and these are other people that know what you're going through, and I think that's the main thing that you were saying too.
Now, first deployment with Matt, John Michael, they were in some more austere areas where it was, and we're talking about Afghanistan is it's out there. It's, trying to get to the internet, things like that can be difficult at times from some of the soldiers whom I've talked with. With some of the later deployments and with some of the, I remember, I think it was Mike was taking a night class while he was deployed. Greg was taking a night class. So during the day, soldier by day, and then you have to hop on a chat room with students who are back home going, oh man, the traffic stunk. They messed up my Starbucks order. Yeah. And we talk about how quickly soldiers have to re-enter what's happening there and take everything that happened that they're not ready to describe, maybe don't understand how to, and have to now bring them back from those deployments. in addition to that, there's opportunities where, Greg's taking a class, or I've talked to people who are just playing Xbox at night in the green zone, and they're talking with people who are,
Mike did that.
they're,
See, Michael never had that.
yeah,
No, neither did Matt.
yeah.
Matt
So
didn't
the
get
ward
showers
over the
for
course
weeks.
of over the course of the time, and as our footprint expanded there, we had some better spots. But to be able to sit in a trailer and play Xbox during the night, and then have to go on a patrol the next day, and you're not only trying to reacclimate from war back, but there are times where in the same day you have to reconnect and deconnect in those ways. So those are some things. I don't know. I'm just curious if those have been, or if you had any thoughts on like how did they deal with trying to juxtapose being deployed and still connecting with things like classes, and how does that work to come back and reconnect once you've been gone?
Well,
when they come back,
Yeah, they never come back the same person
No.
that left. I will say that. I don't know many of who left in the war and came back the same persons. They're changed. They are always on guard. I was telling of an example is when we went to a restaurant and we sat down at the table and my son said, I need to sit there. And I said, well, why? And he said, I need to know where those exit doors are.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay.
yeah.
So of course we got up right away and let him sit where he was comfortable sitting because he knew that that's what I need to do in order to get out of here.
And I still think they still do that.
Yes, yeah.
So-
And walk around garbage cans. If there was an empty garbage can, they didn't go near them because those were the things that blew up. So they would walk around. Things like just very on guard when they first came home. Kept a gun by him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, kept a gun by him. He's used to having a gun by him. He slept with a gun when he came home. And then that slowly went away, dissipated. And then, of course, PTSD sets in for some of them. We had to take the guns away.
Well, yeah.
So we were on the opposite effect of, what made him secure now was a danger for him to have in the house.
I think when they first come home too, they seem okay. It's not until after they've been home for a while that all of this stuff starts really affecting them. And
I agree.
yeah, it's stuff they have to adjust to, like what they went through over there, and then people get upset if they're in line at a grocery store too long, and they just kind of look at them like, you're really upset about this? This is not something worth getting upset about. Right. With a lot of the things that they saw over there, with how people are treated, how they, they would always talk about how during the day, you would get friendly faces like when you were patrolling, but at night you had to guard yourself against the same people, and that was really hard to understand. Like, how can someone be your friend during the day, but at night, it's the total opposite. Yeah. So I'm getting used to that environment, and I don't know whether it's just like, I don't know.
I remember Mike telling a story about training the Iraqi army, and they're like, hey, there's probably 2 of these folks in here that are not really your friends.
Right.
We don't know who they are yet, but keep on teaching.
Right.
That
was hard.
Yeah.
That was very hard for me when I heard it. That was where he was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never. And we've had many wars where people have worn uniforms, and that's been very easy.
That's part of this too.
Yeah.
Is there's no uniforms over there.
No jerseys. No.
So that's a different perspective that they've had to deal with.
Yeah.
Compared to other
World War II or what?
Yeah.
where you knew exactly who the enemy was.
Yeah, if they've got a band on their arm, go after that person. It's not as simple as that.
No, it's not.
And so that's when they're reacclimating. Part of the process is, if it were as easy as I've only really had a problem with people who wore a certain uniform, and now I'm back here and I don't see any of the people in those uniforms. It's probably a little bit easier. I don't know that, but I would definitely can understand where the heightened level of awareness of never knowing whom is the person who is after you, and they're the people whom you're also there to help.
Yes.
And you are here to be a gracious global citizen, and at the same point in time remove threats from their environment. And you never know if the person whom you're handing a sucker to is the person who's really interested in getting you out of there.
Which has happened several times.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a lot of the stuff they don't even talk about to us.
Right.
Well, and you were saying they don't talk about, and you were telling me you were trying to start a group to try to get them together, but it was too soon. Tell me more about that.
Well, when John Michael came home,
I mean, after the first experience with fireworks,
yeah, that was different.
I assume that didn't go well.
it did not go well. And you know, he finally told me it wasn't the noise; it was the smell.
Yeah.
Because that's what he dealt with more with the explosions, and it was not fun driving home from fireworks with him that night. And that's when we started doing.
We started doing an MWR program with our city. Yeah, which was really great. And we actually had Xboxes set up in because they needed the noise and to simulate. Even though it's all blowing up stuff, I don't know. It's a whole different mindset, though. You're right. No, it can't hurt you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we wanted them to come to the fireworks with their families, but they knew they had to excuse themselves.
Right.
Because even some of my daughter's friends who had come back during that same time period, they would come to the fireworks, but then they'd say, "We got to go."
Yeah.
And they would, leave probably an hour before the fireworks started, just so that they were nowhere near them.
And the irony of it being Independence Day, and the whole purpose that they're there is to celebrate the independence that they give to people around. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we would give them free meals, dinner, and all the vets, any vets, and it's been a very eye-opening experience. Yeah. We've been doing it for a while, 10 years. About 10 years. And we've had World War II vets there, Vietnam vets who still are afraid to even let people know they were in the Vietnam War. I really feel bad for them. That's one of the things that I make sure, especially during Veterans Day and all the other holidays, but it doesn't even have to be a holiday. I always go up. If they are wearing a hat that says they were in a military, I go up to them and I thank them. And I shake their hand if I can and thank them for their service. Because I think that's very important. And I probably make some of them feel uneasy, but some of them are very thankful that you took the time to do that. So...
Yeah, you talk about a group of folks that got handed a bad, a bad plate there. The Vietnam vets that we still see, who still struggle with that identity of being a soldier. Yeah. It maybe wasn't one they chose. It maybe wasn't one that they wanted, and it probably wasn't one that they were celebrated when they returned. I've heard too many stories of vets just, you've got to be in your uniform for the flight home and changing as soon as you can, right when you get home, never looking at it again. Something about the 7 years you were telling me. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so I hooked us up with a counseling service, and they were very welcomed us and did try to hold a couple meetings, but it was just too soon for your Michael and John to open up to anything.
I don't think it was too soon for us.
No, it wasn't too soon for us. I don't know, maybe we needed it more than they did at that point. It's kind of funny. But it was a family thing. You could, come and talk about it. But I probably did more with her son. He would call me and say, "I need to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay.
I'll be there. You know, it'd be 10 o'clock at night. We'd go down to a restaurant,
Yeah.
and I'd just sit there and listen to him because he knew. I knew because of my FRG. I knew a lot of how he would feel. I don't know exactly how he feels because I'm not a soldier. I'm not in the military. I don't want to, there's sailors and there's Marines and Air Force too. So not all soldiers. But for the Army, we call them soldiers. And that's what I've dealt with mostly. And so...
I think it's part of it too is they don't want us to think differently of them, which is why I don't think they share as much with their families as they do with other military people.
Right.
So,
and now with this Afghanistan thing that happened,
that's been hard for them.
I contacted him right away.
Yeah.
And
they
because
didn't
I
want-
knew he was in Afghanistan and I wanted to make sure he was okay. And then I said, I need to see you. I want to see you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you out for dinner. Because, you can just talk so much, but I need to see them and see how they're doing. That's right.
You
Thank
do.
you.
You do.
Thank you. So I said, I want to take you out to dinner. And I need to, I told him, I said, I need to see you. I need to see your face.
Yeah.
He said, okay. I said, hey, I'm your second mother now. Come on.
Oh, I know.
So I did.
To turn down a free dinner, right?
Well, yeah, especially John. Yeah.
Especially John, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so the counselor said that when the Vietnam vets came back, it took 7 to 8 years before they would finally talk about what happened to them over there. And so that's why they gave us the number 7 years. She said, we're just going by experience from the last big group that came over from a big war. And it was about 7 years.
What do you do in the meantime?
Well, and I think that a lot of them tap into the VFW clubs, organizations, and the American Legions. But the VFWs would be mostly for them because of their foreign wars. Right. And I think that's where they can actually say, hey, you know how I feel. And they might be able to open up a little more to somebody. And then I just think that the VA really let a lot of these guys down. They were not prepared for this many military servicemen to come back with issues of PTSD, depression, and traumatic brain injuries. Besides those that actually were injured physically in the war, it was a lot, and it took them a long time before they could finally see these soldiers, military servicemen, at a decent time. It was months before they would see somebody, and that was just unheard.
Help,
yeah,
that can be too late.
yeah, and I think that's why there was such a high suicide rate. Honestly,
Still is. Yeah,
still is. Yeah.
And
So-
that they're dealing with too, because it's like when I talk to him once in a while, he'll tell me like one of his friends just killed himself, and you're
Yeah.
like, how do you react
It's still
to that?
out there.
It's got to
It's still-
restir
it's
a
there.
whole bunch of
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah.
But the
and-
other issue too, like I was saying, is when they come back from these wars, they go right from the war zone into your living room. Where past wars, they might have been on a slow boat from Europe coming back here. So they had time
talk to each other.
to talk to each other before they got home. Where they're like on a plane and right there in your living room right after the war, like after they've been in the war. And there's like, I don't feel like there's like a lot of detox there where they can just relax and...
Well, they do for like the first week they're back. They do like talk to them and everything.
Right.
But who's going to admit that anything's wrong? They want to go home.
But sharing a bunk on a boat for
Yeah.
a week on the way back gives you plenty of time to talk through some things. A
Before you get home.
plane ride home on even a commercial jet, depending on how some of them are coming home these days. There's nobody to talk to on that, flight. And you think about the current wind down and everything that's happening now, and with even coming home during a pandemic, like you can't talk to anybody. You can't.
Right.
And that decrease in socialization, I think, was a big issue for a lot of our military. And then the mental health counselors, all of them were doing it video. So it's not, they didn't go into the office to talk to them. The group things were all done by video too, if they were in a group kind of thing. So a lot of that,
That's not how they. I mean, we're in a very social area. We're recording a podcast that we're going to send out digitally. People are going to listen to and drive in and try not to spill their coffee on them. Right. That's their big worry today, and that's great. When we talk about how these vets and how social it is, we talk about these groups, and there's some of these groups, the VFW, right, American Legions, different groups like this where people can go and still socialize. Those groups are diminishing. Their numbers aren't what they used to be. The pandemic definitely didn't help. But when we talk to soldiers, sailors, Marine airmen, we talk to them, and what you always hear the same thing is, oh, I wasn't fighting for so-and-so, I was fighting for the person next to me. That terminology comes in often, and so having that person next to you is actually an important piece of the puzzle. So getting them to the VFW post to sit and have a pint with somebody who had been through something like they have gives them the vulnerability to open up and the environment to be able to do that. So I think encouraging those individuals who are interested in opening up, who do want to find a way to express what they are feeling, to find those situations where they can be with like-minded people. It doesn't matter that you're a soldier and that's a sailor. You each experience things in a different way, but understanding having someone who is on that front with you, I think, can be a big and helpful thing, seeking out those social interactions. But I just think so much, especially, not that things weren't hard before, but especially with limiting social contact, I can't imagine.
This will be harder.
And I mean, you're talking social. There are people who, through this pandemic, haven't even been able to go see their family members. Right? They're like, there are reasons I just can't come around you right now because you are someone who I just don't want to put at risk, or likewise. And so that's got to be hard. The deck is not stacked in the favor of some of these vets that are more recently returning. But it is important to understand that there are a lot of support systems out there. Maybe we talk about that for a minute.
Okay. Well, I know Wounded Warriors has counseling there, and in the beginning they were doing mostly physical injuries, but they've really opened up to PTSD and helping soldiers with that. There's also some organizations that offer the pets. You have to be able to travel to go to the school with the dog, but and then there's some organizations that are doing like white watering and other shooting, like skeet shooting and stuff like that, where they're bringing them together. They need that insulin, adrenaline. Yeah, I'm sorry, adrenaline boost. Yeah. They said. So they try to do that, and they're all military that go. It's in different organizations, different branches of the military. So that really has helped some of them as well. There's farms that are offering riding horses for free for the military. So there's a lot of different things out there that you can try to tap into. You just got to go on Google or whatever you use, and
they're in your backyard, right?
They are.
I know that the government hasn't always done the best job of taking care of the vets, but Americans as a whole are behind them. There are private dollars being put behind. There are donations and nonprofits that push behind this. And I think the VA has really stepped up recently in developing some programs. So there's a lot. It's getting better. I think there's a lot of resources out there. I think the other piece that I just want to make sure we're hitting on, and we talk about vets and we talk about the families and all that, is also, what are those things you just got to think through and look out to know, hey, I need to get them some help. They're in a spot of maybe they need some help. You buy them some dinner, right? Look them in the eyes and you go,
Oh, yeah.
I heard you guys talk about,
yeah.
hey, there are times where they needed a gun beside them, and there's a time when we need to take that away.
Right.
So what are those things that are the telltales that say, hey, something's not right, and we're going to get you some help?
Well, I think one of the things is they start to distance themselves from family. And when you see that happening, you're going to see anger, maybe more drinking, drugs, that kind of thing. Depression, they don't want to, get up. So when you have that combination going on, you need to really try to get them help as soon as possible. The VA has a crisis line. When you call the VA, anytime you call the VA, there is a suicide crisis line on there. So it's important that they know that that is there for them to call. Also, Military One Source, which is huge when you're deployed. You have to go through all these classes, and that's like one of the biggest ones that you go on to as a service person. And they have a crisis line. It's actually the National Prevention Suicide Lifeline. So it's the same number that is on the Military One Source. So that's really important. And then there's local mobile crisis units that they can call. If they don't want to call the VA, then these are other opportunities that you can call when you need help. Make sure that you contact, if you don't want to contact family or another battle buddy, if you still have one that you were in the military with, then please try to call the crisis lines that are out there for you.
A lot of help, a lot of people who care. Reaching out to those places is an important piece.
I would like to talk about anticipatory grief, if I could, just for a minute. That was something that I know that I was going through. And as an FRG leader, I made sure that all of my families knew about it and brought in a counselor to talk about it as well, but gave them information on it. And so it's really common among home front families during wartime deployment. And some of the symptoms are tightness in the throat or chest, shortness of breath, sensitivity to loud noise, forgetfulness and difficulty concentrating, agitation, restlessness, like an anxiety attack. And I will say I was more anxious at that time. Extreme hunger, which I probably had, or lack of appetite, which I never have.
Stress eating.
Yeah, stress eating, or not eating. And then crying jags. Oh my gosh, I could cry. Every time the national anthem played, I tried to sing it, and halfway through I'd be crying my eyes out. And then insomnia, couldn't sleep.
Yep.
So Claudia said she had the same thing, just up all the time. And you could end up doing drugs or excessive drinking with this anticipatory grief. It's also known for people who are terminal illness or dying, but it's different for a military when they go to a war zone. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a normal human emotion. And the main thing is that you connect with others who are going through the same thing, and which I did with Claudia. And do things that make you feel close to the service member. Write a letter, fill a care package, volunteer, help others, or making the world a better place. And it keeps you busy and increases your serotonin, which makes you feel good and will help you not be depressed. So
You can hug somebody.
you can
That's
hug somebody. That's good. And chocolate. That's
Yes.
good too.
Lots of chocolate.
Yeah, all those increase serotonin. Remove the things in your life that make you fear, make the fear worse. Turn off the news. But I have to tell you, that's the first time I ever started watching Fox News, because I was watching that 24/7, trying to see if they were going to have something about them in Iraq because all my boys went to Iraq. So, but if it's starting to get to you, turn the news off. You want to stay away from social media that's, talking a lot about it. Use a journal to write your fears down. Feed your spiritual side. Get back into church. And thought control is real important. When you start thinking negative, try to replace it with something positive, and you'll get through it.
And the anticipatory, I can't even say it. There's a whole thought process around, I think there's going to be grief, therefore I'm going to start grieving. And even if that doesn't come to fruition, it's still real in the mind and something that you need to look out for. And you can obviously adjust and take control of.
And some people actually said, go ahead and go through the process. Someone comes to my door. I see it's the officers. I know what they're going to say to me. Now I have to plan for a funeral, and go through what you think it would be and get it out of there. Get it, okay, now I know what it is. I know this is what could happen. I'm gonna get through it. But if you're not one of those people who can do that, try to just, okay, now I'm starting to think, oh my God, he's going to die. He's going to get, is he going to come back? And start thinking, wow, I really like that beach. I like the waves. I like to listen to the waves. And just try to replace it. Think about your grandkids or whatever. So
Keep your mind away. Keep your mind busy,
that's
right? Don't let it wander.
That is right.
I think we've given a lot of great information around ways to get help, things to think about, how to prepare, a really good recap. I can't miss that it is the 10th of November today. So to our always faithful Marines, 246 years, birthday today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Marine.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
I can't thank you both enough for sharing. Like, opening up can be hard sometimes, but I think there's a lot of people who, when they hear other people share, feel a little bit more comfortable, to be a little bit more vulnerable, to talk about the things that are important, to unburden themselves a little bit with some of that, and I appreciate it a ton.
Well, thank you for allowing us to share our thoughts, and hopefully we've helped somebody out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I will say, I can't, just a little gift from Valley Food Storage today. Yes, we can't do much to prepare for some of the things that you're talking about, but a little bit, just a little bucket of some of their wonderful food, just to be a little bit more prepared.
Excellent. Thank you.
A little bit we can do, but thank you very much. Well, thanks so much for listening today. I think it's been a really enlightening piece as we think through just a different way of different perspective on what it's like to be a military family, what it's like to be the parent of a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, and just a little bit of ways of saying thanks as we talk through this Veterans Day, or any day. Really think about appreciating all those that were there to help support the fight of freedom here and abroad.